Yo, what's up, everyone? This is Terry with College Football Stop. Bring you another show today. Uh, Super excited about this week. Obviously we had a really good weekend of college football. Obviously, Ohio State kind of just put it on Michigan State in the first half, and then kind of just shut it down. I can't wait to get into it, man. This was an interesting game. If you're an Ohio State fan, this type of game is interesting to you at this time of the year because they haven't put it all together like that in any other game this year. So I mean that I don't know, man. We were kind of waiting throughout the year to see if we could if this team could be like this. Put offense and defense together. If Kyle McCord could play better, because people were gonna say, we'll get into it. People were gonna say like, oh, it was Michigan State. I don't care. Kyle McCord played better than he's played all year. So we'll get into some of that. Obviously, I want to talk about the players of the game. And then, interesting stat that I found I want to go over, which basically compares Ohio State's 2023 defense to Georgia's 2021 defense. Obviously, not saying those two are the same. I know they had tons of NFL players and, probably played against better offenses. I don't know. I have to look into that, but I want to go over that stat just because, hey, man, them stats match up pretty well. So let's go ahead and get into it. Obviously, if we're talking about Ohio State, Michigan State, I have to start with Kyle McCord. I don't have a choice, right? I mean, phenomenal. Like I'm giving Kyle McCord an A+ grade in this game. He was out there looking decisive. Footwork was on point. Throws were on point. Which I mean, arm talent was never really the question. Especially if you listen to me, I was never really questioning Kyle's arm talent. It was all the other stuff. Now, I do think the offensive line played a phenomenal game, right? So I think that Kyle McCord was not really under pressure. He didn't have to deal with uh, kind of things that he wasn't expecting. So, there is that aspect of it. So he still has to continue getting better at that. But I mean, some of the things that he did in this game, we haven't seen him do it all year. We haven't seen him do it in his entire career at Ohio State, whether he was a backup or, you know, he started what 9 games before this. This is game 10. So, I mean, you think about like the play where he made in the second drive to Cade Stover, where pressure came, he rolled out to his left and flipped the ball to Cade Stover. I mean, in a different game this year, that could end up being a sack fumble. I mean, I don't know. Like I said, Kyle just looked like a completely different person out there, and I don't know, man. I feel like having that kind of confidence, playing like that late in the year, that's a recipe for this team to go on and like win a national championship. Obviously win the Big Ten, beat Michigan, all that good stuff, man. This team can do that, especially if this is the new Kyle McCord. Then, hey, man, I'm with it. I've been someone who's been so critical of him all year, and I mean, if I'm being really honest, I didn't really think that we would see a game like this from him ever. I didn't think that he would be able to do it. I just didn't, and that's from uh, watching him in all the other games. So, and if I'm going to talk about Kyle, I obviously got to talk about Marv. Man, listen, Marv's the best player in college football. Jaden Daniels and Marv are the two best players in college football, and he is starting to get recognized as that more. I've seen that his Heisman odds kind of got basically. I think it went from like what 1,400 to 1 to 400 to 1 or something like that during the game. I mean, I actually have a bet in on Marv to win the Heisman. He's probably not going to, but the odds were so good. I just, why not just throw like $5 on it? And if it happens, if some of the other guys have bad games, or if Ohio State beats Michigan and Marv has like one of his best games of the year, it could happen, man. So I don't know. He's definitely probably going to be in New York, right? Unless Ohio State loses to Michigan and he doesn't put up any stats at all, and the Heisman voters don't even want him there, he'll be there. So that's huge for recruiting. Obviously, just having a guy like that on your team who is projected as like a top 5 pick in the NFL draft, that's huge for recruiting. Not that Ohio State has any issues with recruiting wide receiver at this point. So I don't know, man. Again, like I said, Marvin Harrison Jr. is just a freak, and I don't think that it's not coincidental. He's putting the work in, and he's a very consistent player. I think he has 100 yards in like what 7 of the last 8 games or 8 of the last 9 games or something like that. I mean, Everybody in the entire country wishes they had a Marvin Harrison Jr. on their team. So we only got a few more games of Marv left, and enjoy it because he's gone. And I don't know, man. It's like I said, dude, it's just a phenomenal player. You can't talk about it or you can't understate it. All right, the next thing I want to talk about is the Ohio State run game. So, man, this has me super excited. I don't know what happened in the time that Travion Henderson was out after he got the injury in the Notre Dame game, but this Ohio State run game since he's been back has been a completely different beast. And part of it is Travion Henderson being back, a huge part of it, right? But there's also another part to it, and it's the schematics that they're doing. I mean, all this year, Ohio State was doing what they've done in the past years. They're running stretch run, mostly to the boundary, and everybody's like, "Oh, Ohio State's run game is not very good." Listen, they're not doing that anymore. They're mixing things up. There's so much more multiple in the run game, and that's really where I think that's one of the biggest reasons why the run game's been working so well. I mean, even having like Chip Trainum or Evan Pryor in there, they're still able to run the ball. But Travion Henderson is that difference maker, and I mean, I think he will be in every single game Ohio State plays this year. If you're going against one of the best teams in college football, Travion Henderson can still get off on them, and he's proved that honestly in the past because I posted on Twitter a while back, like basically the stats of Travion Henderson in big games, and he averages like over 100 yards rushing. He averages multiple catches for like whatever, I don't know, remember the number on the amount of yards for receiving, but he averages at least one touchdown a game. Like big play Trey is that big game Trey, and we're gonna need him. Excuse me. We're gonna need him coming into the Michigan game and into the Big Ten championship and playoffs because I mean he, he's a difference maker, man. That there's no other way to say it. And one of my favorite things about Travion Henderson is that he brings energy to the offense. If you look at our offense when Travion Henderson was not out there, and it's like Chip Trainum, or when we have Mayan Williams back there, Evan Pryor, Dallin Hayden, any of those guys, they don't bring the same energy to the offense. And I was watching one of my buddies on Best Damn Media, their show just right before I started here, and they were talking about how Travion Henderson will get hype over a like a 5 yard run. I just think that that's something that we need on this offense. Like Marv can catch a 60-yard touchdown pass and or not even touchdown. He could catch a 60-yard pass and he's just going to get up and do his little celebration and then get back to the line. He's not about to get hype. So we need that on our offense. And I think having guys like Travion Henderson, it's just, it can't be talked about enough about how much of an impact it has on the team. So, all right. So that was kind of the run game. Like I said, I think it's a real problem for teams, man. Like if Kyle McCord is going to be the Kyle he was this weekend, it's going to be a problem for everybody. Even if he's the Kyle that he was throughout the rest of the season, Ohio State's run game can still carry them through this year if they let it. Ryan Day cannot abandon the run game. I don't care if it gets stuffed a couple times and it gets you behind the chains a couple times. You cannot abandon the run game. All right, and then next thing I want to talk about was Cade Stover. Man, listen, having him on this team is such a huge impact. And when he was out, he was missed. I like G Scott. I think G Scott maybe needs one more year to develop to become a really great player. But Cade Stover is already that great player. Cade Stover is going to be an NFL player. The way that he catches the ball now, the way that he runs routes, he's blocking has even gotten better. So I mean, I heard that he was out for like some kind of surgery or whatever happened to him. It's something with his wrist, right? But he came back and he's right back to form. You look at him versus Michigan State, and I know it's Michigan State, but I don't care. He's done it every game he's played this year. He let me pull the stats here. I don't know why I didn't do that, but just again like watching him catch the ball and then make guys miss. That's the one thing I was telling all my buddies. We were talking about Cade Stover and his impact he could have, and this is like before the season even started. And I've always stood on, I think that Cade Stover was going to be a great player because last year he was great. He just had his worst game at the worst moment of the season against Michigan, and so everybody hated him. I get it. That's fine. If he did it this year against Michigan, I would probably feel the same way, but I don't think that's going to happen. But I mean, Cade coming back off of injury, he's second on the team, or actually tied for first on the team in receptions with Marvin Harrison Jr. 7 catches for 79 yards and a touchdown. Man, that touchdown was a great play. It was a great throw by Kyle, kind of like a back shoulder throw in between two defenders. And for Cade to be that big and contort his body and make that catch, like I said, I just can't say enough good things about Cade Stover, man. I love him as a player, and he brings so much energy to this team too, just kind of like Trey does. Like he's the type of dude that will get up and scream in your face. So, all right, that was kind of it for the offense. Just a little review of like what we saw, man. Like I said, I'm super excited for this team. I think they put it all together this weekend, and that's scary for teams in college football because this defense is really fucking good. This defense is probably the best defense in college football. If you want to look at the statistics, you could say Michigan. Okay, cool. I mean, not to get too much into that, but like you factor in possibly cheating and you factor in the horrible schedule that they've played. I think Ohio State's the best defense in college football. That's where I'm at with it. And now the one thing that could be an issue or has kind of been an issue the last couple weeks is the run game defense. And I think that it did show up a little bit in this Michigan State game. But I mean, Tommy Eichenberg was not out there. I mean, Tommy Eichenberg against the run is probably he's got to be one of the best linebackers in the country against the run. There's no way that he's not, because him against the run made him an All-American last year, and he's still playing at that same level. So again, not having Tommy Eichenberg was a problem. However, the run defense has still been struggling. I think it's mostly a schematic thing. I think that Jim Knowles is doing some things different, and probably to get ready for Michigan. And I know that sounds silly because Michigan's run game is a problem, but what I'm talking about is I think that Michigan's run game is it's very multiple. And when I say that, I mean like they do a lot of different things. They do a lot of different schemes, and they also do like zone reads with JJ McCarthy, and that's something that you have to kind of do things a little different for. Rutgers was able to get off on Ohio State using some of that zone read stuff where their quarterback could keep it, or with that quarterback actually being willing to keep it like JJ is. Ohio State does need to change some things up schematically to make sure that they account for that quarterback keeping it and running the opposite direction of where the play looks like it's going. So I don't know. We'll see how it works. The run defense has not been great, but once a team gets past the 50-yard line on Ohio State or like the 40-yard line, you see that run defense really tighten up. And I think that's because maybe Jim Knowles is willing to take a little bit more risk at that point. His thing this year is not giving up big plays. Well, if a team is in like within like the 30-yard line, driving in to score, you're really not going to give up a big play, right? In terms of like a 40, 50-yard play. And it gives you guys a little less room that they have to cover on the back end. So I think that we're going to be just fine against them. I just think that some of the schematic things that we've seen change is Jim Knowles taking his defensive ends, and instead of using them to crash down on the run game and spill the ball outside, he's been having them get up the field a little bit and secure the edge in case the quarterback keeps it. And basically they'll be right there to tackle him. So I don't know. Like I said, it's just it could be a concern, the run game defense, but I don't think that it will be. And I think that this, if you look at this, like I said, we're going to talk about the stats here in a minute compared to Georgia. Ohio State's only averaging 3.4 yards per attempt. Teams are averaging 3.4 yards per attempt rushing against them. I mean, again, you could say the run defense is bad, but it hasn't been, and that's just a simple fact. So I don't know. The next thing I want to talk about is Sonny Styles. Man, this dude is like one of my favorite players on this team. Obviously, he was playing the nickel position before, where he was more like a hybrid linebacker who would still also be in coverage. And then since Lathan Ransom's been out, Sonny Styles has switched back to that bandit position or strong safety position. And honestly, I think I like him better at that position. And the reason for that, I think that we blitz that position more. And Sonny Styles is probably the best blitzer on our team in terms of like, yeah, that's it. What I said, that he's probably the best blitzer on this team, in my opinion. Because there was one play in the Michigan State game, and if you guys get a chance to go back and watch it, find this play because you'll see it. They show replay of it and everything, where Sonny Styles is blitzing, and the quarterback's looking right at him as he snaps the ball, and you could watch Sonny take like one or two steps to the right. So if Sonny was on the left side of the quarterback, you could watch him take like one or two steps to the right. Quarterback takes his eyes off of him, and then he triggers right away, straight to the quarterback at that point, and he gets there so fast. It's like two or three steps, and he's from like 7 yards out, and he's on you and making a tackle. Man, listen, and this kid, he's phenomenal. I just don't know what else to say about him. He's phenomenal. Like he's going to end up being like a first round pick in the in the draft after next year, and we're going to miss him. But for now, I want to see him really be a big part of the game plan when it comes to stopping Michigan. I've been talking to my dude Truther from Best Damn Media, and he keeps saying Sonny Styles needs to be a difference maker in the Michigan game, and I agree with him because if JJ McCarthy's going to run the ball, he's not going to outrun Sonny Styles. He's not going to run away from him. He's not going to miss tackles. Those are the types of plays that win games. When you watch Michigan play this year, I know we're talking a lot about them, even though it was about Michigan State. But again, I mean, that's the game that everybody's waiting for, right? Obviously, we have Minnesota this week, but everybody's looking forward to that game. But if you watch Michigan play this year, some of the biggest plays they have and some of the biggest like third down conversions, stuff like that they have is where someone will blitz and JJ McCarthy will just make them miss. I mean, that's something he's really good at. I don't think that's going to happen against Sonny Styles. So I don't know, man. We'll see how it plays out. But Sonny is just enjoy him while you have him here. I know we have him for a whole nother year, but just a freak athlete out there. Let me see here. The last thing I wanted to talk about with the Michigan State game, just kind of reviewing it, was Ohio State's depth pieces. So it was really cool that we got to see like a full quarter or almost a full quarter of basically all backups in the game. I mean, some of the guys that I saw that flashed, the first one I want to talk about is on defense. And I don't know if anybody else will even talk about this guy, but to me, I think every single time that Ohio State puts their second team defense on the field, Mitchell Melton looks like he's the best player on the field, regardless of which team you look at. I don't know. I don't know if he needs to get some first team reps, but that dude looks like a freak athlete every time he's on the field, and he comes screaming off the edge. He's got bend. I don't know. I seen him get some like actual meaningful reps throughout the year, but not much. I want to see him out there, man. I think he could go out there and get a big sack on a third down or make a play. I don't know. Anyway. I just want to, like I said, I'm going to talk about some of these depth pieces because, Mitchell Melton is one of them. I don't know if he's coming back for another year. I hope he is because he could be a real problem next year. And then look at guys like Jermaine Matthews. He got in the game late. Just, again, he's been locked down all year. That's it. The depth that they're building on this team is insane. You had guys like Kai Stokes come in the game looking good. My dude, I always talk about, CJ Hicks, got in there and got a TFL. Play where he kind of diagnosed the play perfectly and looked like he was shot out of a cannon. I don't know, man. You saw guys like Ryan Turner get out there. This defense, I think, is set. One of my favorite players. I don't even know why. There's really no reason for this because he hasn't necessarily done anything to say that this is going to happen. But I believe that Amari Abor is going to be a superstar defensive end. To this day, I still believe that. I know this is his second year, he's not a starter, whatever. I don't care. I think that Amari Abor is going to end up being a superstar defensive end at Ohio State, and he's going to end up being like at least a first 3-round draft pick. I wanted to say first, but obviously we haven't seen enough to even go there, so that would be pure projection. But like I said, I love what I'm seeing out of the depth on the defense, and hopefully they continue getting these guys in games. I mean, obviously we have not many games left, right? But you have Minnesota. Go out there and take care of business and get off the field or get your starters off the field and get those guys more reps. All right, so I want to move on from that. Actually, no, I forgot about the offense, dude. Come on, I forget about the offense. So the depth pieces on offense are looking insane too. You obviously I was gonna say the West Dakota Heisman. That's what my dude Chris Drew kind of started that about about Lincoln Kienholz. Listen, I'm glad that he got to go out there and play. It sucks that Devin Brown kind of re-injured himself before the game, but Lincoln looks good, man. What I said was that he has tools. Lincoln has tools that Ryan Day could work with, and I mean, if he stays here, he's going to be developed into a good player. You could tell his arm is lively. He's super athletic. They call him Mr. Does Everything Right or something like that. So I don't know, man. Glad to see Lincoln get out there. And the guy that Lincoln was throwing the ball to, this dude, Jelani Thurman, is going to be a problem. He is going to be a problem. He went out there, caught the ball 2 times, and it took 4 to 5 guys to tackle him. He just looked like he was chilling. Jelani, I think he's like 6'6", 260 pounds, something like that. And a tight end. I mean, listen, next year Ohio State's tight end room is probably going to take even another step forward because you got guys like G. Scott coming back, and then a guy like Jelani Thurman who should step into a bigger role. I'm super excited about that. All right, so that was it. Just kind of like my little review of the game. I do want to talk about who are my players of the game. So offense, my player of the game is Kyle McCord, man. I mean, I know Marv got the 3 touchdowns, but listen, the way that Kyle played compared to the way that Kyle's been playing it's too much of a difference. He's the player of the game. Just got to hand it to the kid, man. And like I said, I've been very critical of him, but if this is the new Kyle McCord, it's going to be a problem for anybody that steps on the field with Ohio State. And then my defensive player of the game, my guy who I didn't even talk about, I'm going to go with the same one that Ohio State went with. Jim knows his silver bullet of the day, Davison Igbinosun. He was out there balling, man. Out there balling, making tackles. I think he led the team in solo tackles. Again, just out there doing what he's been doing all year. You know, I heard a lot of smoke for him from Ohio State fans after like he gave up 1 touchdown against whoever the hell it was a couple weeks ago. But I don't think there should be any smoke for that kid. He's been out there balling, and he's brought like meanness to this defense that I think it needed. Like I was saying to my dudes yesterday, I think that Davison Igbinosun might get in a fight when we go play against Michigan. He might end up getting kicked out of the game because if they start talking shit, he's the type of dude that grab your helmet and rip it off your head. So I don't know. That's my player of the game for offense and defense, and then special teams. Special teams has been terrible for Ohio State, obviously, but one of the lights that I've seen on special teams this year, and he's going to be my player of the game for this one, is Jermaine Matthews. I hope that they continue letting that kid play on special teams because he just looks like the best player on the field. That's what I want to see out of Ohio State players. I want you to look like the best player on the field. And whenever he's out there on kick coverage, he looks like he is the best player on the field. He looks like he's a starting player at a college going against backups. That's what he looks like. So, and that's what you should look like if you're going to be someone who is eventually going to be a superstar. Once you get on the field, you should look like the best player on the field if you're getting in with the second team or special teams where a lot of backups, get on the field. So I don't know, man. That's my players of the game. Those 3. So again, it was Kyle McCord, Davison Igbinosun, and Jermaine Matthews for special teams. All right, I want to talk about this one little stat that I found here. Not just one stat, but basically comparing the Ohio State 2023 defense to the Georgia 2021 defense. So I just like digging into things like this. I don't, last night I was taking a look at it. I'm like, let me see how they stack up against this team. Just picked a random team, and it was that one, which happens to be one that people call one of the best defenses ever in college football. Now, obviously, this Georgia team played in the college football playoffs, in the SEC championship game against Alabama. So, they played better competition, especially when you look at it for the entire schedule. Ohio State hasn't got there yet. But, I mean, we'll see how it plays out. As of right now, Georgia, they averaged 10.2 points per game. Ohio State's at 9.9, so less points per game. Georgia, 4.0 yards per play. Ohio State, exactly 4.0 yards per play. And let's see here. Looking at yards per game, Georgia averaged 268 yards per game given up. Ohio State currently at 262. Then we look at rushing yards. Georgia allowed only 2.6 yards per average per rush. So their rush defense was actually a little better than what Ohio State's is right now, which is, like I said before, 3.4 yards per carry when running the ball against Ohio State. But Ohio State's passing defense was actually a little bit better than theirs. Now, like I said, they went against some really good teams late in the year. So this could change depending on who Ohio State plays against. Georgia was 5.62 yards per catch, and Ohio State was 4.71. Or sorry, Ohio State is 4.71 yards per catch. So I know stats can be a little boring. I'm a stat guy. I like looking into them just as a just kind of see where teams stack up, and then you get to think in your head like, okay, is the competition the same? Blah 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 blah. Like comparing Michigan's defense right now to this 2021 Georgia defense, they would probably look a lot better than that. But we all know that this Michigan defense is not better than that 2021 Georgia defense. So, and I don't think this Ohio State's defense is either. But I do think that they're really good, and I think that they're a little bit underappreciated maybe because they give up some yards. So, all right, that was it for my show today, guys. I'll be live again tomorrow at 10 a.m. talking ball. I want to dig a little deeper into this Ohio State, Michigan State game. Hopefully, I'll get a chance to watch some all 22 film and kind of see if what I saw is what I thought I saw. All right, peace out, guys. You guys have a good day.